All right, so we're diving deep today into this whole idea of economic well-being.
Yeah.
What makes us feel financially secure, fulfilled in our careers.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got this uh, pretty big stack of sources here
Yes, we do.
to help us sort of unpack it all.
Lots to dig into.
Yeah, and I think this is something that, like,
Absolutely.
no matter where you are, like what age you are, what
Yeah.
stage of your career you are in,
At any point.
this stuff is relevant,
You're
right?
never too young or too old to start thinking about your financial well-being and what a fulfilling career looks like for you.
Totally. And I think sometimes we get caught up in like, okay, what's
Yeah.
the bank account say?
Right. Right.
But it's so much more than that.
Exactly. And that's what's so interesting about the sources you pulled for this. They all kind of point to this idea that economic well-being is this like multifaceted thing.
Yeah.
It's not just about money, it's about making choices that align with your values and feeling good about where you're headed.
Totally.
It's that sense of security and purpose.
Right. Yeah. Feeling good about where you're headed.
Exactly.
Okay. So let's start with like those career choices, because one thing that
Right.
really jumped out at me from these sources is like
Yeah.
how many different factors there are.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not just like,
It's so much more complicated than just saying follow your passion.
right, follow your bliss
Yeah.
and the money will come, which
Right. It would be nice, but
it would be great, but it's a little more complicated.
yeah, there's like family expectations in the mix.
Oh, yeah.
Societal pressures. You see what your friends are doing and you think, oh, maybe I should be doing that too.
Right.
And then, of course, there's the whole economic climate to consider.
Right. Totally.
Some fields are booming, others are shrinking. So understanding that context is huge when you're making decisions.
Totally. It's like you could have this,
Yes.
amazing talent for underwater basket weaving.
Right.
But like,
Right.
if there's no market for it,
Exactly.
that passion's not going to pay the bills.
It's about finding that sweet spot where your skills and interests intersect with actual opportunities.
Totally.
You know?
Okay, so we've got all these external factors, but then something else that came up a lot in these sources
Yeah.
was this idea of stereotypes limiting opportunities.
Ugh. Yes. Stereotypes.
Like how big of an impact do those really have?
Honestly, they're way more powerful than we often realize.
Really?
Yeah, they can really shape people's perceptions of what they're capable of and what careers are even open to them.
Huh.
I mean, think about gender stereotypes in STEM fields.
Well, yeah.
For years, they've discouraged women from pursuing those careers, and that's led to a real lack of diversity and, potentially even slowed down innovation.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's not just about fairness, it's about missing out on all that talent and perspective.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not just gender either, right?
Yeah.
Assumptions about age, background, even personality traits can box people in.
Yeah.
One of the sources you shared even talked about how algorithms used in hiring
Oh, wow.
can actually perpetuate existing biases.
Huh. So it's like we're building these systems
Yeah,
that are supposed to be like objective and fair.
exactly. But they're often reflecting back the biases that already exist in society.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
So I guess the takeaway there is like awareness is key.
Absolutely. Recognizing these stereotypes, both consciously and unconsciously,
Right.
it's the first step towards breaking them down and creating a more equitable and innovative workforce.
Yeah, absolutely.
We need everyone at the table.
Okay, so we've got all these like external factors
Mm-hmm.
shaping our choices,
Mhm.
but then the career landscape itself
Oh, yeah.
is changing too, right? Like the whole
Yeah.
one job for life thing feels like ancient history.
It's definitely becoming less common. All those sources you pulled, they talk about the rise of the gig economy where
Right,
people
yeah.
are piecing together multiple freelance or short-term jobs instead of having that traditional full-time position.
Right, yeah. It's a whole new world out there. And it makes sense with all the technology and remote work options.
Exactly. It's about flexibility and being able to adapt to a rapidly changing market.
But I guess it probably requires a different kind of skill set.
Definitely. Adaptability is key.
Mhm.
One of your sources talked about T-shaped skills, which basically means having deep expertise in one area, but also a broad range of general skills that can be applied across different situations.
So it's not just about like learning a specific trade.
Nope.
It's about learning how to learn
Yes,
and
exactly.
adapt quickly.
It's about being a lifelong learner, being curious, and being willing to step outside your comfort zone.
And I guess that's not just good for your career. It's good for
everything.
life in general.
Exactly. It's those adaptable people who tend to thrive in the face of change.
Totally.
And let's be real, change is the only constant these days.
Right. Okay. So we've talked about making career choices in this, complex world. But how do we actually manage the money side of things?
Right, right.
Because your sources, they really stress this idea of like financial literacy.
Oh, for sure.
What does that actually look like in practice?
Well, it starts with the basics,
Okay.
understanding your income, tracking your spending, creating a budget. It's about making conscious choices about how you use your money rather than just letting it slip away.
So it's not necessarily about like deprivation.
Not at all.
That's
It's about being mindful.
Right.
One of your sources even suggested using bank statements as a starting point,
Oh, interesting.
just to see where your money is actually going.
Yeah, because I think sometimes we have this idea in our heads,
Totally.
and then we look at the statement and we're like, wait,
Yeah, where did all my money go?
how did that happen?
Exactly.
So, okay, but what about like specific budgeting methods?
Okay.
Because one that came up was this 50-30-20 rule.
Right. That's a popular one.
What's that all about?
So basically, you're dividing your after-tax income into 3 categories. 50% for needs, like housing and food.
Yeah.
30% for wants, things like entertainment, dining out, and then 20% for savings and debt repayment.
Okay.
It's just a framework. It's not set in stone, but it's a good starting point for prioritizing.
Right. It gives you a structure without being too
Yes.
restrictive.
It's about finding a balance that works for you.
Yeah, because I know for me, like having a budget
Yeah.
really helped me understand where my money was going.
Absolutely. It gives you that clarity.
It's amazing how those like small everyday expenses
Oh, yeah.
can add up.
It's death by 1,000 lattes,
Right, exactly.
But the good news is there are so many tools and resources available now to help manage your finances, budgeting apps, online banking tools that categorize your spending,
Oh, yeah.
even those roundup apps that automatically invest your spare change.
Yeah. It's pretty cool what's out there.
It's amazing how technology can make things easier.
And that reminds me of something I read in one of the sources.
Oh, yeah.
It talked about value for money.
Right.
It wasn't just about being cheap. It was about really understanding what you're getting.
Exactly. Being a conscious consumer,
Yeah.
sometimes spending a little more up front on a higher quality product that will last longer might actually save you money in the long run.
Right. Okay, so as we kind of wrap up this whole deep dive,
Yeah.
what's like the key takeaway you want listeners to walk away with?
I think the most important thing to remember is that economic well-being, it's a journey, not a destination.
Okay.
It's about constantly learning, adapting, and making informed choices about your career and your finances.
Right, yeah.
It's within everyone's reach, It doesn't have to be this overwhelming, complicated thing.
Right.
It's about taking small steps and building good habits over time.
I love that. So for you listening,
Yes.
here's a final thought. What one small step can you take today to feel more in control of your economic well-being?
I like that.
Maybe it's tracking your spending for a week, researching different budgeting methods, or even just having a conversation with someone about their career path.
Great idea.
Every little bit helps.
Absolutely.
Until next time.
See you then.